Don says in question 7, would you explain the reason for saying, keep in mind that this entity, or that this is harvestable third, that did Ross say that? Let's go back. That's not exactly what Ross said. Ross said, keep in mind that this entity is harvestable third density. Alright, Don got it. Missed a word there. Keep in mind that this entity is harvestable third density, and tell me if you have any other specific recommendations with respect to the proposed operation on the growth. And so Ross says, we stated this in order to elucidate our use of the term spirit complex as applied to what might be considered a second density entity. The implications are that this entity shall have far more cause to abide and heal that it may seek the presence of the loved ones. Okay, so let me check something really quick. All right, we'll cover one more question. In fact, let's do it now, and we'll go back to this because Ron didn't answer. You see, Don asks here, do you have any other recommendations for the proposed operation? And Rod didn't answer it. So in question 8, Don says, is there any additional recommendation that Ra could make with respect to the proposed operation? And Ra says no. That's why he didn't even mention anything in the previous question, question 7. So going back to question 7, or rather answer, which is why what Ra mentioned that Gandalf, right? That was Gandalf, by the way. They didn't mention its name here, but it's Gandalf for all of you Lord of the Rings fans and nerds like me. The Maiar, let's see if anybody, I don't know, I know that not many people watch this or listen to this, but let's see if anybody knows Gandalf's real name. Don't Google it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be dishonest. We talked about honesty before. See if you can find that name. It's in the Silmarillion, by the way. So if you didn't read it in the Silmarillion, you're not going to know it. But okay. The cat, Gandalf, beautiful name, by the way. It was harvestable third density, and they mention it because, well, that shows a lot more the love that they have, which makes me want to talk about second density to finish up this first part. So second density is very interesting, even for us who are in the path of spiritual evolution, because we can see what happens when we look at awareness becoming aware of itself. Second density, all animals, they all exhibit a sort of self-awareness. And that's why when you try to kill a fly or swat a fly or a mosquito, it flies away. It wants to preserve itself. See, it is aware that it exists. But it's not so fully aware that it exists that it can generate this feeling of identity. You know, it's just a very primitive form, insects in general, right? As we move along in what I call different categories of second density start to exhibit a lot more of self-preservation and a more desire to commune with others. Plants do this. We just don't seem to speak the language of plants, but plants do this. They're very old and they're very knowledgeable about each other, so they communicate with each other through I forget what the right word is, but substances that they exude out of themselves, or even through the roots. We're just beginning to see how this is all interconnected. But again, plants are easily entities that can be possibly harvested to third density. But most noticeable is animals, especially mammals. In my own biases, that doesn't mean that other, say avians, for example, or reptiles can develop this. Of course they can. But mammals do exhibit something very similar to us humans. They need to nourish their offspring, and we just find that, in our care, when we look at mammals in general, they're a lot more, close to us in terms of their love and how they behave with us. So we can see that they're starting to develop not only self-awareness that they exist, but also the fact that they want love. That's what they want the most, aside from food. But that's a very instinctual response. Food and love, that's all they want, especially dogs. So yeah, this is, and you can see it. I don't need to convince you on this. So that is what develops the spiritual complex. That's why Ross said here, we stated this in order to elucidate our use of the term spirit complex. By the way, they didn't say spirit complex, they just said spiritual energies or something like that in the last part. They said it's spiritual distortions. So it means that it has a spirit, right? So that's what they're saying. We mentioned, or we said the word spirit because, well, it has a spirit in it. In question, I can't remember the question, maybe question 3 of session 19. I know it is in session 19 when Ra explains how animals become spirited, which they say they don't become spirited, actually, but just they realize within themselves that I am. See, that's the beginning of the spirit. The spirit is the creator for the first time saying, I am. I am this body. I am this mind. That's the first awakening that happens. And it happens with animals. We humans have an animal body, so we identify with mind and body, of course. That's third density life, identifying with mind and body. Fourth density is disidentifying from mind and body and knowing that, no, you're not this limited being, you are something else. And that something else turns out to be the whole universe, the eternal one, and so on. So that's the process of second density to third density and third density to fourth.